what is our pride as an electoral commission is that a turnout up to something like 80%.
Africa, we love you. Our beautiful land. Let's show the whole world we can bring peace in our land.
We are very proud of the performance of the IEC.
I can see why they are able to come out with the results quite quickly.
Well, that gives you a glimpse of the powerhouse we were speaking to tonight. Good evening and welcome to Unfiltered. I'm your host, Criselda Lewis. Now, it's just 2 days before millions of South Africans go to the polls in the country's 6th non-racial general elections. Now, for 12 years, she was at the helm of South Africa's election management body, the IEC. Now, she was appointed by then President Nelson Mandela, well, just months before the crunch second democratic elections in 1999. So tonight, the former IEC chairperson, Dr. Brigalia Bam, is joining us as a guest on the show. You can also, of course, engage with us in our conversation on social media. We're also on Facebook, on Twitter as well. Please use the hashtag SABC News Unfiltered. So we're asking you tonight, have you made up your mind? Good evening.
Good evening.
Dr. Bam, it's wonderful to speak to you just 2 days before this election that we're going to in South Africa, the 6th general election. And I want us to go back. In 1999, former President Nelson Mandela had basically appointed you to head the IEC as chairperson. Mm-hmm. And we entered the 6th general election. And let's go back to what were the challenges at the time that you had to deal with as the chair?
Well, let me start with the positive. Besides the challenges, I think what was exciting at the time was that there was so much enthusiasm with the people of South Africa. At the time, they were keen on elections. They wanted to see what was going to go on. They had a lot of trust in what we were doing, though we didn't have an experience. Several challenges of the time, the first being the fact that we had, as a nation, to create a voters' roll. It's something we'd never had before. And the legislation was on us that every person who gets registered, which was the key, absolutely key, that you must be on the voters' roll before you vote. That was the greatest challenge because we didn't all have the IDs at the time.
Yes.
And not prepared the Home Affairs also at the time to make sure that every South African, every part of this country, they have it. That was the first one. The second one was that we didn't have maps. We had to create the maps as an electoral commission and broke a record actually at the time to make the maps, and we got a great award, Smithsonian prestigious award, because we had done this mapping the whole country, every corner of the village. Third area was the infrastructure, because many parts of our country at that time didn't have the roads. You know, and it was very difficult for us to reach some of the villages because of the terrain, difficult terrain, no roads to get there. We have rivers and the demarcation was also a new challenge. So you make sure that the boundary and is not where you have to cross a river. Yes. So those were the challenges, and to make sure that there is safety of the people who will be walking to a voter's roll, and the distance people had to walk to go to the nearest voting station, that lack of experience. And then, of course, the places for people where they can vote, because the only available places in the rural areas generally, is to be expected. That's where the greatest challenges were. The schools didn't have the water, the schools didn't have the sanitation. Yes. And what was going to happen to the people who have gone to vote all day? What were they going to do with the water and the problems of the use of the toilets? Name it. It was a challenge.
And I want to get exactly to that. You spoke about the issue of demarcation and the toilet wars. I just want to look back here. I remember in your book, which you penned much later, Democracy More Than Just Elections. It's a very, very pertinent title for that. There were burning issues that the country was facing. The demarcation issue, Free State Tlokwe issue, the toilet wars. That's part of the issues that you had raised at the time. As we go to the 6th general election, South Africa still grapples with some of those issues. How do you think South Africa's democracy is faring? You penned this some time ago, but the very same issues that you spoke about then are the challenges that South Africa faces within its 25 years of democracy now.
Not all of them. One very important thing that has happened, which is a positive thing from that time, is that the registration of people has been almost mastered in an amazing way. It's now much easier to register South Africans. The information is there. They know what to do. The second one on demarcation is amazing. There are just, this time, no conflicts. You don't hear any conflict related to, because people now know, they understand the value of where you must vote, where you live. Those were the things we had to make people to understand. And after 25 years, the South Africans are so informed. And this is an encouraging thing. Things that are related to the construction of toilets at each and every school is a general problem, not only for us in the Electoral Commission. Well, I talk, though I'm still part of it. I'm no more part of that. Yes. But my life has been very much into that world. Those are still problems with us, which means that always the Electoral Commission has to make provisions, less now than it was before, and they have to bring the generators to some of the areas because people have to vote until 9 p.m. because we cannot, in 25 years, electrify the whole country, but we thought we could do it. Yeah. But we didn't realize, because we had never, all these things were new to us, that we'll be able to reach with the construction and with the development, each and every voting station and each and every village.
I want to talk about where South Africa stands at the moment. While, yes, there's a lot of positivity to speak about, one of the issues that is plaguing our young democracy as South Africa is the issue of corruption.
Yeah.
You've spoken out quite candidly about South Africa's electoral system.
Yeah.
I guess then the issue of corruption, when we looked at South Africa's electoral system and the party system that the country uses, you've come out candidly to say that the electoral system in the country needs to change. Do you think, talk to us a bit about that, and do you think that would possibly be the way to deal with issues such as corruption in the country?
No. I don't think that we should take the correlation too closely between elections and corruption, because in countries where the elections are perfect and where the electoral systems have been put through for many years and people are reasonably stable, we're only 25 years. So you are comparing us with countries that have been running elections for over 100 years. So the correlation between the two, the corruption question has got really nothing to do directly with the electoral systems, is that people will always be corrupt because it has to do with accountability, it has to do with ethics, it has to do with morality, it has to do with a lot of other things that are not related. The election simply means that the people will have a chance. By the way, it's important to say that there is no perfect electoral system. What becomes a challenge, even with systems that people keep changing and refining because they experience differently, it is the individuals that will always represent you in any given structure. And so the correlation isn't as close. Yes, there are problems that exist, even with our system, but if we have, let's say we all appoint a president, somebody terribly, terribly wealthy, whom is this person going to be accountable to, by the way? If it is difficult now that you appoint a president who is appointed by a party, the party has set a criteria, the party has decided this is the person they want, so this person, in fact, is accountable. first and foremost to the party, and then secondly becomes accountable to the whole nation, it's not working. How much more than if we all decide that we like you and you are very, very wealthy, you have lots of money, and you do exactly as you please. Because it's to the individuals, finally, really, in some of these things, the kind of values they themselves have. Of course, you need to have the laws from within you can operate. Yeah.
Dr. Bam, we'll discuss this a bit further, but we'll have to take a short break here on Unfiltered. We'll continue our discussion with the former IEC chairperson, Dr. Brigalia Bam. Please stay with us.
Solani Mkiva says that they believe that the king should be released and that they are not being opportunistic.
The last 4 years, we have been engaging with government. It cannot be a post-colonial government that begins to jail a king in a context of what actually happened.
Bobby Solomons, he's the spokesperson of the Alex Shutdown Committee, the multi-billion rand Alexander Renewal Project. Nothing came of that.
Community wants to know what really happened to the monies.
The creative director of the label, Mansu, that of course means black is beautiful in Sesotho. What has been your experience in that regard, given some of the more established labels that you have managed to work with?
It is hard. 15 years is a long time. There's a lot of sacrifice for your family to make for you.
This is the thing.
Wearing without the brief.
This is it this morning.
Did you know the big hole digging started in 1871 and ended on the 14th August 1914? The hole produced 2,722 kgs of diamonds. However, one diamond as huge as 490 carat of stone found in the open prior 1868 gave them the interest to dig. Extracted from 22.5 million tons of soil. Today, the hole sits at a breathtaking 214 meters deep. Kimberley Big Hole attracts tourists from all over the world, taking a vintage tram past the city, then cycling around the Big Hole. SABC News is producing more than 150 election-related programs ahead of the May 8th election. If you think our content is not in line with our editorial policy, direct your complaints in writing to complaints@sabc.co.za. Complaints on election-related broadcast content should also be lodged with ICASA's Complaints and Compliance Committee by sending an email to bmashihu@icasa.org.za or call 012-568-3233.
Well, welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. It's certainly now down to the wire. 2 days to go. The IEC outlined its state of readiness for this year's elections. It says it's all systems go. Now, on Wednesday, of course, we go to the polls. That's the 8th of May. Voting stations will operate, of course, from 7 a.m. to 2100 hours. Let's continue our discussion with the former IEC chair, Dr. Brigalia Bam. Dr. Bam, thanks for staying with us. On the issue of the country's electoral system, it is a party system. And I want to ask you in particular, for example, does it disappoint you? Because given the system that we have, you've already outlined the issue of the fact that we're voting for a particular political party. The electorate then chooses that. They then decide who goes to parliament, who will then represent the people. But as we sit today, for example, with the list of the ANC, a lot of issues have been raised about that. The names of individuals who've been raised at the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture, for example, are on those lists. Is that part of the reason why you've been calling for the system itself to change? Because currently, with the party system, you say it's not working.
You know, I think that we need to do a number of things. First, let me say that we are a young democracy. And so we are talking of a limited experience of 25 years. Of course, we imagine that 25 years is a very long time. Let us first remember that we had to have this system because of our history. We didn't know each other. We were many nations within one nation. And so we didn't have as many parties as we have now. It's fantastic now. It shows, you know, the democracy, people understand, they can create their own parties. And there are a lot of positives about the system which we created in order to get us to where we are. But now it is clear that there's maturity. People are now looking for a different kind of system in which we can build into that system a new way of accountability. No matter what system we follow, if our accounting procedures, whom are you accountable to? Are you accountable to yourself, or are you accountable either to the party or accountable to the nation? Because that is fundamental in any system that you will create. I think that South Africans have indicated that with all the protests that we do, there is something else that is different that we are searching for, in which those people who are supposed to do things for us, whom we have appointed, are not doing it. And that's what we begin to see, is that do we want to look at the legislation? Do we want to create our own? You know, South Africa, we can do our own homegrown, looking at our system and not probably borrow a system either from the UK or borrow a system from the United States.
This system is not working.
And then we say, what is it with this system that works? Let's start with the positive. What is it with this system that is not working now, which worked for us in 1994, in 1996? And that's where we should begin. And it has got to say every candidate, in my opinion, every candidate who is a candidate, the public must know who that person is. It has got to be in the law, not in the hands of anybody else. That it is information of a form of transparency, which in South Africa we can create. We've done our own things to create where you come from, what do you bring? And that there has to be a system that gives time, that if people are not performing, you don't have to wait for 5 years. Why wait for 5 years? What is the magic of 5 years? If you are not able to provide people with the money that you have been given for the budget to get the people water, and you have information that says to you that money has not been used properly, why then do we wait for another 5 years? Why don't we have a system whereby we get rid of you?
Dr. Bam, then just before we wrap up, we're really running out of time quite fast. About 2 years ago, you'd also shared a sentiment about, you know, the desperation of individuals wanting to get on party lists for positions of power.
Yes, absolutely.
Back when you were with the IEC, there was a lot of political intolerance. Political killings were rife. Let me get your opinion. Just this past week, 2 in KwaZulu-Natal individuals were killed, linked to political killings, by our understanding from our reporters. Shot dead. Does it disappoint you?
Yes, it disappoints. It disappoints me very much. But at the same time, when you think, perhaps you're not there, that we have had the highest number of killings before 1994. We lost more people. And so if you begin to look at our record, I am not saying that the 2 people who have been killed, I'm not saying that's, no one should lose life.
Well, starting in 1990, there have been 14,000.
Yes. And so there is an improvement. There is an improvement. We are talking of 2 days before the elections, and we're talking of 2 people only being killed. I'm not saying it's good for anyone to be killed. Don't misunderstand me. But if you are comparing from where we're coming from.
It surely should be a disappointment, of course, Dr. Bam, because the issues that you dealt with then are still issues that are being dealt with right now. The political intolerance is still there, whether it's 1 person or 2
this
individuals.
time, it's not the political intolerance. You have to understand that is an intra-party. The intra-party has to do with greed. The inter-party has to do with fighting over the resources. Everybody wants a salary. Everybody wants to have access to tender. So it's a political intolerance of a particular kind, which is driven by greed. And that is why it's intra-party. It's no more as inter-party as it used to be, which is a different thing that we have to look at within the system itself. Why is that people are prepared to kill another person because they are not in the list? Why prepared to kill another person because they are not the ones? It is true. We need to deal with that as well.
I understand we're going to take a break now, or are we continuing on the show? Let me hear from our producers there. We're continuing. Dr. Bam, I think let's take a short break. I'm hearing we should. Let's take a short break. We'll continue this discussion with Dr. Bam once we get back.
We do not just speak. We let every voice in our nation find full expression in language and in culture. We do not just teach. We empower all people with education. We do not just bring you the news. We place you where the news is happening. We do not just entertain. We take you on journeys. We do not just broadcast sport. We create an arena for sporting heroes to inspire you. Ours is not just a job, it's a calling to ensure that everyone in our nation is informed, educated, and entertained. We're able to do this because you do your part. SABC TV licenses. It's all made possible by you.
Clientele funeral plans.
It's your final gift of love.
I chose the clientele funeral plan because it's affordable and suits my budget.
I chose clientele because they are an original. They've been around for a long time, and I know within my family are in good hands.
I'm a farmer and I'm a businessman, and I know a good deal when I see one. Clientele is a good deal.
Clientele is the name I trust.
SMS plan to 31043 and we'll call you back.
Welcome back as we wrap up our discussion with the former IEC chair, Dr. Brigalia Bam. Dr. Bam, thank you so much for staying with us. We're really running out of time now. I think let me just get your final thoughts and perhaps advice that you will give just 2 days before this all-crucial election. Many have touted it as one of the most important since 1994.
Yes, very important. My advice to all South Africans, and especially to young South Africans, our youth, that never miss this great gift that we have, a gift of a country, a gift of democracy, a great gift that during our own lifetime, those of my generation are able to be recognized as human beings. Elections are key. It's elections for one's self. It's an election that gives you an opportunity as a citizen to participate, and so that after you participated, then you have a right to challenge your government.
Dr. Bam, what a pleasure it is to have you just 2 days before this crucial election. And I think South Africans will heed that advice to go out and vote. And thank you very much. We can see from the tweets that you've been sending to us, we've asked you to engage with us whether you've decided after all the months and months of campaigning by different political parties. Thank you very much for engaging with us here on Unfiltered. We'll see you again next week, Sunday, and I'm sure we'll have all the analysis from what then would be the results that are expected to be announced on Saturday. And I think, all South Africans, as Dr. Bam has said, should take the opportunity to go out and vote. Who you vote for is none of our business. Have a great evening. Good night.
On Trends Travel, we bring you a full guide on all things lifestyle related. With so much to discover, we give you comprehensive reviews of places to visit, music, travel, and food. We also explore the arts, whether on or off stage. All this and more. Be sure to tune into Trends Travel Saturdays at 5:30 p.m.
The SABC News mobile app is your one-stop digital portal to all the news you need. Stay connected with the latest in breaking news. Watch the SABC News channel along with clips and live streams of all the big news events. And listen to all the SABC News radio stations live, including podcasts and much more. Simply download the SABC News app to your Android or iOS device from either the Play Store or the App Store. SABC News, independent, impartial.